Today is our Good Friday reading, and it's from Mark chapter 14, starting at verse 12. On the first day of unleavened bread, when the Passover lamb is sacrificed, Jesus' disciples said to him, "Where do you want us to go and make preparations for you to eat the Passover?" So he sent two of them, saying, "Go into the city, and a man carrying a water jar will meet you. Follow him, and wherever he enters, say to the owner of the house, 'The teacher asks, where is my guest room where I may eat the Passover with my disciples?' He will show you a large room upstairs, furnished and ready. Make preparations for us there." So the disciples set out and went to the city and found everything he had told them, just as he had said, and they prepared the Passover meal. When it was evening, he came there with the 12, and when they had taken their places and were eating, he said to them, "Truly I tell you, one of you will betray me, one who is eating with me." They began to be distressed and say to him one after the other, "Surely not I." He said to them, "It is one of the 12, one who is dipping bread in the bowl with me. For the Son of Man goes as it is written of him, but woe to that one by whom the Son of Man is betrayed. It would have been better for him that he was not been born." While they were eating, he took a loaf of bread, and after blessing it, he broke it and gave it to them, and he said, "Take, this is my body." Then he took a cup, and after giving thanks, he gave it to them, and all of them drank from it. And he said to them, "This is my blood of the covenant, which is poured out for many. Truly I tell you that I will never drink again of the fruits of the vine until that day when I drink it new in the kingdom of God." When they had sung the hymn, they went out to the Mount of Olives, and Jesus said to them, "You will all become deserters, for it is written, 'I will strike the shepherd, and the sheep will be scattered.' But after I am raised up, I will go before you into Galilee." Peter said to him, "Even though all become deserters, I will not." Jesus said to him, "Truly I tell you, this day, this very night, before the cock crows twice, you will deny me 3 times. But Peter said vehemently, "Even though I must die with you, I will not deny you." And all of them said the same. Then they went to Gethsemane, and he said to his disciples, "Sit here while I pray." He took with him Peter, James, and John, and began to be distressed and agitated. And he said to them, "I am deeply grieved, even to death. Remain here and keep awake." And going a little further, he threw himself on the ground and prayed that if it were possible, the hour might pass from him. He said, "Abba, Father, for you all things are possible. Remove this cup from me, yet not what I want, but what you want." He came and found them sleeping, and he said to Peter, "Simon, are you asleep? Could you not keep awake 1 hour? Keep awake and pray that you may not come into the time of trial. The spirit is indeed willing, but the flesh is weak." And he went away and he prayed, saying the same words. And once more he came and found them sleeping, for their eyes were very heavy, and they did not know what to say. He came a third time and said to them, "Are you still sleeping and taking your rest? Enough. The hour has come. The Son of Man is betrayed into the hands of sinners. Get up, let us be going. See, my betrayer is at hand." Immediately while he was still speaking, Judas, one of the 12, arrived, and with him there were a crowd with swords and clubs from the chief priests, the scribes, and the elders. Now the betrayer had given them a sign: "The one I will kiss is the man. Arrest him and lead him away under guard." So when he came, he went up to Jesus at once and said, "Rabbi," and he kissed him. Then those men laid hands on him and arrested him. But one who stood near drew his sword and struck the slave of the high priest, cutting off his ear. Then Jesus said to them, Have you come with swords and clubs to arrest me, as though I were a bandit? Day after day I was with you in the temple teaching, and you did not arrest me, but let the scriptures be fulfilled." And then all of his disciples deserted him and fled. A certain young man followed, wearing nothing but a linen cloth. They caught hold of him, but he left the linen cloth and ran off naked. Then they took Jesus to the high priest, and the chief priests and the elders and the scribes were there assembled. Peter had followed him at a distance, right into the courtyard of the high priest, and he was sitting with the guards, warming himself at the fire. Now the chief priests and the whole council were looking for testimony to put Jesus to death, but they found none. Many gave false testimony against him. Their testimony did not agree. Some stood up and gave false words, saying, "We heard him say, 'I will destroy this temple that is made with hands, and then in 3 days build another not made with hands.'" But even on that point their testimony did not agree. Then the high priest stood up before them and asked Jesus this question, "Have you no answer? What is it that they testified against you?" But Jesus was silent, and he did not answer. Again the high priest asked him, "Are you the Messiah, the Son of the Blessed One?" And Jesus said, "I am." And then he said, "You will see the Son of Man seated at the right hand of the power and coming out of the clouds in heaven." Then the high priest tore his clothes and said, "Why do we need witnesses? You've heard his blasphemy. What is your decision?" All of them condemned him as deserving death. Some began to spit on him and to blindfold him and to strike him, saying, "Prophesy." The guards also took him over and beat him. While Jesus was in the courtyard, one of the servants of the high priest came by. When she saw him warming himself by the fire, she stared at him and she said, "You were also with Jesus, the man from Nazareth." But Peter denied it, saying, "I do not know or understand what you are talking about." And then he went out into the forecourt. Then the cock crowed. And then the servant girl, on seeing him, began again to say to the bystander, "This man is one of them." But again he denied it. And then after a little while the bystanders again said to Peter, "Certainly you are one of them, for you are a Galilean." But he began to curse, and he swore an oath, "I do not know this man you are talking about." At that moment the cock crowed for the second time. Then Peter remembered that Jesus had said to him, "Before the cock crows twice, you will deny me 3 times." And Peter broke down and wept. And soon it was morning. The chief priests held a consultation with the elders and scribes and the whole council. They bound Jesus, led him away, and handed him over to Pilate. Pilate asked him, "Are you the king of the Jews?" And he answered, "You say so." Then the chief priests accused him of many things. Pilate asked him again, "Have you no answer? See how many charges they bring against you." But Jesus made no further reply, so Pilate was amazed. Now at the festival, Pilate used to release a prisoner for them, anyone they asked. And a man called Barabbas was in prison with the rebels, for he had committed murder during an insurrection. So the crowd came to Pilate and asked to do what was his custom. And he answered them, "Do you want me to release for you the king of the Jews?" For he realized it was out of jealousy that the chief priests had handed Jesus over. But the priests had stirred up the crowd to have Barabbas released. And he spoke to them again. "Then what do you wish me to do with the man you call the king of the Jews?" And the crowd shouted back, "Crucify him." And he asked them, "What evil has he done?" But they shouted all the more, "Crucify him." So Pilate, wishing to satisfy the crowd, released Barabbas for them, and after flogging Jesus, had him handed over to be crucified. The soldiers then led Jesus into the courtyard of the palace, the governor's headquarters, and there together was the whole cohort, and they clothed him in a purple cloak, and after twisting thorns into a crown, they pushed it on him. And they began saluting him, "Hail, King of the Jews!" They struck his head with a reed, and they spat on him, and they knelt down in homage to him. And after mocking him, they stripped him of the purple cloak and put his own clothes on him, and they led him out to crucify him. They compelled there a passer-by who was coming in from the country to carry the cross. It was Simon of Cyrene, the father of Alexander and Rufus. Then they brought Jesus to the place called Golgotha, which means skull. And they offered him wine mixed with myrrh, but he did not take it. And they crucified him, dividing his clothes among them, casting lots to decide who should take what. It was 9 a.m. when they crucified him, and the inscription of the charge against him read, "The King of the Jews." And with him were 2 crucified bandits, one on his right and one on his left. Those who passed by derided him, shaking their heads, saying, "Aha! You who would destroy the temple and build it in 3 days, save yourself and come down from the cross." In the same way, the chief priests, along with the scribes, were also mocking him among themselves, saying, "He saved others, he cannot save himself. Let the Messiah, the King of Israel, come down from the cross now, so we may see and we may believe." Those who were crucified also taunted him. When it was noon, darkness came over the whole land until 3 in the afternoon. At 3 o'clock, Jesus cried out with a loud voice, "Eloi, Eloi, lama sabachthani?" Lama Sabachthani, which means, my God, why have you forsaken me? When some of the bystanders heard it, they said, listen, he's calling for Elijah. And someone ran, filled a sponge with sour wine, and put it on a stick and gave it to him to drink, saying, wait, let us see whether Elijah will come to take him down. Then Jesus gave a loud cry and breathed his last. And then the curtain of the temple was torn in two from top to bottom. Now when the centurion who stood facing him saw that, and he saw the way he breathed his last, he said, truly this man was God's son. There were women among them who looked on from a distance, and Mary Magdalene was there. Mary, the mother of James, was there, James the younger, and of Joses and Salome. These used to follow Jesus and provide for him, and there were many other women who'd come up with him to Jerusalem.